whatever the case may be, I think the time it takes to make decisions is crucial. And the kicker there is you need to have the right information in front of you to be able to make the best decisions for the business.
Why do growing businesses go broke? Welcome to the Profit Answer Man podcast. I'm Rocky Lalvani, and I help 7- and 8-figure business owners scale profits and cash flow while working less. Every week, we dig into proven methods like the Profit First system, other cash flow strategies, and real execution. No accounting jargon, no fluff. If you're going to be the backbone of America, creating jobs and serving your mission, you deserve to be well rewarded. We're Profit First certified professionals. If you want the masterclass, check out episodes 2 through 13, including Mike Michalowicz, where I break down the entire Profit First book, chapter by chapter. If you want, grab your free copy of the Profit Blueprint book at profitcomesfirst.com and start making profit a habit today. You built this business to serve your mission and your freedom. Let's make sure it pays you back. We also offer strategic tax planning and preparation to help you keep more of that profit. Now let's dive in. If you run a company, you already know the trap. You can be booked out, your people can be busy, and the bank balance can still keep you up at night because cash doesn't move at the speed of work. Our guest today is Dustin Young. He's a fractional CFO who works with subcontractors and general contractors doing $3 to $30 million a year. What makes him different is he's not just a numbers guy. He's lived both sides. He started in accounting and then worked closely with field operations. Now he helps owners connect what happens in the field to what shows up in the financials, so the business stops running them. I love that because I, like Dustin, have done the same thing. I know how to lay tile. I know how to do electric. I know how to do plumbing. We've done it all, but I don't want to anymore. Now I love working on the numbers, just like Dustin. There's no reason you can't make money doing this. We're going to get practical. We're going to talk about pay when paid and the reality of how to forecast cash when you don't get paid for 60 to 90 days, which is true in a lot of industries. We also will just focus on the few numbers, how to stay in track, how to make sure you're profitable, and how to create that kind of freedom. It really helps when your financial people understand the work and the numbers and the systems and the marketing, put it all together for you. Let's meet Dustin and we'll show you how it's done. Welcome to the Profit Answer Man, Dustin Young. It's great to have you join us today.
Good to be here, Rocky. Appreciate you having me on.
Can you share a little bit about yourself and your business?
Yeah. Man, I don't know how personal we want to go here, but I'm a fractional CFO specifically for the construction industry. I work with subcontractors and general contractors they're doing anywhere from $3 to $5 million all the way up to about $30 million in annual revenue. I help them get clarity on their numbers, make smarter decisions, and figure out how to grow and not let the business run them at the same time.
It's true of every type of business. It doesn't matter what kind. Question though, because you deal with subcontractors, I find they don't tend to have the pricing power that others have. And it's a question of when do I get paid? How have you been able to overcome that?
It is a really tough one. You know, the GC kind of has all power, right? They have the master contract, so to say, of the project. And there's almost always terms in there that say, hey, we'll pay you subcontractor when we get paid from whoever hired us, who gets paid from whoever hired them, right? It's like this big, long line of waiting. Something that we do to overcome that, number one, is just planning for it, right? Like having a forecast that says, okay, we know that these jobs will be done in 30 days and we don't get paid another 60 after that. So we have to plan accordingly. That's the biggest thing. And the other piece of it is just actually negotiating with the contractors, right? A lot of times we just get a job sent to us, we bid it really quick and they accept it and that's it. And like, we don't even think. But if we actually go back and communicate with them before we sign something, then there's usually a little bit more leeway than what we thought.
I'm laughing because that was my question to you is, do they know what the payment terms are before they sign the contract?
Usually not. No. So I often either find out after the fact or I'm pushing them really hard. Hey, send me the contract, send me the contract, send me the contract so I can look at this and we can actually have that information up front. Sometimes it's not that big of a deal, right? Like if they've got enough money in the bank, we can forecast it, not as big of a deal. But a lot of times these guys, they don't have the money in the bank to be able to fund payroll for freaking 90 days before they get paid. So it's a big deal.
And that kind of determines, is there enough juice in this contract to make it worthwhile? Because if it's a tight number and it's 90 days, then it's like, you know what? I'm better off just skipping it. Because it's not just, oh, I'm tied up with this contract. Because my money is tied up in this contract, what can I not do now? Oh, I can't do this more profitable contract because I agreed to do this barely profitable contract because the numbers look good, but I didn't bother to look at it. Why don't they listen to you? Like, why don't they look at the contract or tell you to look at it so that you know what the terms and the cash needs are so that you can weigh the stuff and go, hey, this is better than this. Go this way.
Most of them are just moving around so fast that they don't pay attention to those details, right? Like they don't have a system that helps them do those things. Like a lot of them don't have a CRM. A lot of them don't have a good project management tool. A lot of them don't have the right ERP, that helps them keep track of all the details that are going into these things. And so they're just kind of willy-nilly sending out bids, getting stuff signed, going and doing the work, and then hoping it all works out after the fact.
It does until it doesn't.
Yeah.
Right. And depending on who you're signing contracts with, if they're not financially stable, then you put yourself at far greater risk.
Absolutely. Yeah, there's definitely some due diligence to be done on both sides of that. It is common for the larger contractors, they will actually collect your financials, right? In their vetting process for their subs, they will actually collect your financials to make sure that you are, I want to say, worthy, to go and do work for them. And I think on the flip side of that, not that subs are going to go to a GC and say, hey, send me your profit and loss, but they could do some research online, right? And look at reviews and all these different things to try and make sure, like, is this someone I should actually be doing work for?
Do the subs usually send over their P&Ls for the GC, or like what exactly are they sharing?
Yeah, sometimes. So on some larger projects like big neighborhoods, the GC will request a year or two of financials to make sure that they're like I want to say, solid company, right? They're not losing money everywhere. They're actually going to perform because their financials say that they do.
Interesting how that comes to be. So when you work with them, I find everyone is good at their craft, whatever it is, whether it's construction, restaurant business, marketing. They usually don't look at the financial side. So what are the couple of numbers that you think that they should look at constantly to better understand their business?
Yeah. Honestly, I try and keep it as simple as possible, especially for the people that are smaller, right? Like they can do everything up to a certain point. They do their craft really well, like you said, up to a certain point, and then they get to that ceiling where it's like, if I don't start paying attention to these things like crazy, then I can't really grow. And for me, it is just every week, at least every month, like I know they're looking at their bank account, right? But I want them to actually know how much cash they have. I want to know how much they're doing in sales every week or every month, depending on the business. I want them to look at how much gross profit in that same period and their net profit in that same period. If those four things are in check, they're probably okay. If the business is bigger, then obviously we're going to be throwing in a bunch of other things too. But for the most part, if you got cash, you're profitable, you're probably okay, as long as you're collecting. But if you weren't collecting, you wouldn't have the cash, right?
Well, some people just borrow.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Right? And then they have the cash. I always like to get business owners to look at gross profit, not so much for a metric to say, how am I doing? But more so to go, you don't have a $10 million business. Your gross profit says you have a $5 million business, and that's what you got to run your business on. So stop acting like a $10 million business when you've only got $5 million to run it on. And it creates a mindset shift that all of a sudden it's like, oh, wait, I'm smaller. I can't afford all those extra things that I thought I could, because they see that big top line number. It's funny. I was talking to one guy in even the pool building business. He's like, oh, my business is like 5 million. I'm like, no, it's not. Just because you have contracts for 5 million,
right,
you're not completing them in the next year. So it's multi-year. And again, that's not your gross profit. And at the end of the day, do you have cash? He had none of that because he was spending tomorrow's deposits on today's work. And that there is the problem.
Yeah.
You've worked both in the field as well as on the financial side, correct?
Correct. Yeah.
What perspective does that give you that's somewhat different?
That's a really good question. My background is actually in accounting. So that's kind of where I started, and which was very valuable. I took that, and then I was able to start overseeing operations with that background. And I think what a lot of people miss is the connection between the two things, right? You've got all these systems and processes that need to work together in tandem. You've got all the back end finance and office stuff going on. Then you've got all field operations going on. A lot of times they are not aligned at all. And what I was able to see was the disconnects between the two things. You've got the different personalities even that you're just working with in the field, right? Like they're not office people, There's all sorts of terms for those guys. And I have a huge respect for them. And they just don't usually line up with the office. And so working in the field and working with those different people, I've worked with heavy equipment operators in mass grading and excavation, civil construction work. I've worked with concrete guys and just all sorts of stuff going on in the construction process and the home building process. And that's really it. Like, they don't speak accounting, and accounting doesn't speak field. And so for me, I now speak both languages. And that really helps me connect the two things together. As I'm creating systems and processes for businesses to scale, I can bring both perspectives to the table.
It's funny because in the field, there's a lot of what I call wastage, right? You're cutting a 2x4, you take a foot off of it because you need a foot, you throw 7 feet away. They don't understand what those costs are. And at the end of the construction process, they take all this brand new material, they throw it in the dumpster because, we projected more because we didn't want to be short. They don't understand 10% waste in the field. I don't know what you're seeing for most clients, but a lot of them are 10% profit. And so if you're wasting 10%, that is a tremendous amount of money that could be better utilized. Now, there is always the back and forth. Hey, if I can do this 3 times as fast and waste a little bit, does it make sense to waste? Yes. But someone's got to do the math to say, this is when you waste, this is when you move. And you have to be able to understand both of those and know the material costs and the time labor costs of those two things. And then it's just the efficiency of being able to do stuff. How fast can you actually move and get stuff done? Because there is dramatic differences in the field.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, there's some home builders, they're popping houses out in 3 to 4 months. And then there's others that are, 8, 9 months. And I'm talking about tract homes, never mind the custom world. But there is a huge difference there because, you build a house in 3 months and you sell it versus you build a house in 7 or 8 months and maybe the market shifts and you don't get to sell it as fast and you just lost all of that carry cost and everything, that goes into not being able to turn that money over and over and over as fast.
So there's the money turnover, but then you're doubling your carrying costs in that particular situation. And so that's a lot more money going out the door. And I don't know, it seems to me if it takes twice as long, there's a lot more room for things to go wrong or get messed up, or people who can't plan like that well are the same people who put the carpet down before they paint, and then we have a mess because the paint got on the carpet because we should have never put the carpet down like before we painted. It's just life. And then things get nicked and scratched, and all of that is money to go back and repair. You've worked with companies that are successful and unsuccessful. What have you learned from some of their failures?
Man, the time it takes to make decisions is one of the biggest things I've seen that causes failure. Like if you can't ever get to the point of making decisions quickly, whether it's the wrong move or the right move, as long as you can go back and make corrections faster than it would have taken you to make the decision in the first place, then that is huge. I see people that will take months to just move their feet, right? They've got a fire that needs to get put out and they just leave it there for forever and it just gets bigger. Instead of making a decision of, I need to fire this person and we need to move on, or we need to fire this client and we need to move on, or whatever the case may be, I think the time it takes to make decisions is crucial. And the kicker there is you need to have the right information in front of you to be able to make the best decisions for the business. And a lot of times they don't have that.
So what are they moving? Like, what are they missing data-wise in those situations usually?
Usually they are missing, the things we just talked about. Like a lot of them don't know their margins. Project by project, a lot of times the bookkeeping gets done so late or the accounting gets done so late that they're already moving on to the next thing before they even get to see how they did on the previous, or that's a really big one. I had a company last month that I was talking to that they think they did 40 million in revenue in 2025. They think. And they think they're profitable on that because they have some money in the bank. But they have no idea project by project. And these are big projects. Like they're doing apartment complexes. They're a trade that works in apartment complexes mainly. And they think that's how much they did last year. And I've been told that a lot of times, our books are so late, we don't even know, we're just flying by the seat of our pants.
How did they do, or do you not know?
Still don't know. Books are still not done.
Oh, well, how far back are they not done? Are we talking December books, or are we talking like?
No, they are 6 months behind.
Ooh, how do you make decisions when you're that far behind?
Pretty much impossible.
Okay.
Maybe
Why
not.
Why are
impossible.
they working with you?
They're not yet. So
that makes sense. Okay.
Yeah. So this is coming out in the sales process as I'm talking to them and trying to figure out what the issues are that they're facing.
Okay.
That was like the first thing they told me.
Yeah, that's not unusual. So we talked about problems. Are the problems that they stall on the most people problems or other kinds of operational problems?
Ooh. People and technology both are pretty high up there. But I would say the ones that cause the most, the hardest issues to tackle involve people.
Okay.
You've got someone you've built a relationship with, then all of a sudden they break your trust and you don't want to let them down still, Someone goes and wrecks your truck because they were, drinking and driving in the company truck. But you've had this relationship with this guy for the last 10 years, right? They did a really good job. And then all of a sudden they do something stupid. And obviously the right thing to do is fire them.
No, I'm with you. That's why I asked, because I know the people problems are the ones that take the longest to change, and it could happen in a variety of different ways. The other thing is, I think a lot of times, depending on the size of the business, the owner is so insulated from the reality of the people that the people they think are good are the arsonists in the company who are always solving problems that they somehow created. So that happens. I've also noticed that depending on the size of the company, each size has its own set of issues and problems and walls or things that they have to overcome. Like, a business that's maybe 1 to 2 million's got its own sense of things. You get up to that 3 to 5 million, you've got a whole new set of problems. You get to 10 million, and it's not like the problems are going to solve. It's just like, oh my, now we have a new set of problems that are wholly different. What have you found?
The smaller companies have a lot more little problems, that you and I might think are easy to solve. And the bigger they get, the bigger the problems get, as in the more difficult they are to solve usually. That's kind of what I've seen. Like you said, when you get to that size, call it 5, 10 million, and there's middle management and the owner gets removed from a lot of the day-to-day, the problems that middle management has to take care of don't get solved as fast, or maybe not the same way that the owner might do it. And so those are going to fester, become bigger, until they get to the point where it has to reach the owner because he's the only guy that can solve it. I see that quite a bit. It seems like the bigger the business, the bigger the problems. You start having lawsuits and things like that really when you're a $1 million guy and you're just shaking everyone's hands and making everybody happy, usually lawsuits aren't there as much, right? So that's one of the big ones.
I don't know if people realize that one of the top ways to prevent lawsuits is to be nice and to listen to people and acknowledge their pain. And they'll forgive you. Now, I'm not going to say everyone will, but it tends to go a lot better that way. And you're right. A small problem in a small outfit requires a small solution. But when you have a small problem in a big outfit that gets done 1,000 times over, and now you got to go fix the same small problem 1,000 times over, that becomes big money, big problems, and so forth. And everything just scales, including the volume of the problem. And what I find is nobody wants to go back to the beginning and fix it now because we're too big and that's too complicated and we got to keep moving. And so it's that struggle that because they didn't do it right to begin with, trying to go back and do the basics now is extremely difficult.
Yeah. Just keep shoving it under the rug. We'll deal with that another day.
Another day, until you can't. So you're talking to businesses that, like you said, 10 million, 20 million, 30 million. Are they enjoying their time freedom or are they like grinding it out normally?
When I first start working with them, that is usually like our focus. Some of them want to be grinding still, right? Some guys are okay putting in 60, 70 hours a week, and some want to be 20, 30 hours and spending the rest of the time with their family. And that's what we figure out up front, because that tells me how we need to structure this business so that they can get what they want. They started it in the first place because they wanted it to serve them. And majority of the time when we start working together, it's not going the way that they pictured when they first started it, right? And so we figure those things out up front and kind of base all of our plans around what does the owner want to be doing in 5 years, tomorrow, in 10 years, all those things.
What is it that they're doing that's sucking up all their time that they don't need to do?
Putting out fires all day long. A lot of times they're putting out fires, but they're also like the lead sales and estimator, right? Or they are the lead guy in the field for project management. So all the 15 project managers call them when they have a problem. And it just, sucks up all their time. And they have no time for business development. They have no time for really anything outside of that.
They're stuck in the business, not working on it.
Absolutely. Yep.
What's the biggest thing that surprises you when you work with some of these companies?
That company that I was talking about earlier, whose months are far behind, they're a big company, right? They're not very small anymore. And it surprises me when I talk to people like that have gotten that far with almost no structure. Like they don't have any middle management. They don't have systems for CRM. They don't have an org chart, right? Like simple stuff here, and most of these companies just don't, like they're good at concrete, or they are good at framing, or they're good at building houses. They are not good. And it's okay that they're not, right? But they are not good at structure. They're not good at systems. They're not good at accounting, all the back end stuff.
Mm.
And so I just get surprised, when I see these bigger companies that still have made it as far as they have without it. Because to me, it's like, dang, what if you implemented these things? Like, how much further could you go? It's like the sky's the limit at that point.
Why do they fight you on implementing it, though? Because I know they do, because they fight me.
Oh, yeah. Change is hard, right? Like, they've been doing the same thing for a decade or 2 decades, and technology has evolved. They don't want to learn it. Like, oh, that's just going to slow me down. But what most of them don't see is, yes, it probably will slow you down for a short period of time, but the long-term impact of that is great.
They don't always see the benefit up front.
Yeah.
And so they don't. Honestly, though, I was speaking to a company, they were at 50 million. And it wasn't that they didn't build the layers, they built them all. The problem is they didn't build them right.
Mm.
And so some of the things that they built, they didn't think about the impact of those decisions, like timing of when we pay salespeople, what we pay salespeople on gross profit versus, total retail price sold, or when that check gets cut to the salesperson. And so it was timing issues. It was policy issues. Also early metrics like the warning bells to tell you, hey, things are going off track. We're telling you early versus when there's no cash in the bank. Because when there's no cash in the bank, it becomes very difficult to do anything. And even that company that I was telling you about, their P&L was fine. Their balance sheet wasn't, and they had no cash, which is what you see on the balance sheet. The P&L said they were profitable, but because of those decisions that they made, it created those cracks that you don't see until they break. And growth has a way of hiding stuff. But the moment the growth slows down or something changes in the tide, it blows up. Or sometimes even just growth itself causes business failure because the problems get out of control and the cash gets too far behind the projects. And then if you can't complete any of the projects because you can't make payroll, it all blows up.
Yep. Yeah.
So how do you get them to listen?
Man, it's something I struggle with every day. I don't know if I have if I do exactly this, then they listen. Obviously we can't force them to, but I try and focus what I'm saying to them on the future impact, like you were talking about. Less on what are we doing tomorrow and more on what is that future going to look like if we do these things. And usually, as long as we spend more time talking about the future than we do talking about the present or the past, then it's okay. But if we're sitting there dwelling on, well, we did it like this last year and blah, 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 like it worked okay. As long as we don't do that, then usually they will listen. Now, sometimes they know things that I don't know, right? Like they haven't shared certain information with me, or sometimes pride or ego gets in the way of me or them, right? Not that I'm exempt from that, but I think that's it. As long as you focus on the good that would come from it and the possibilities that would come from it, then there's a higher chance that they're going to pay attention.
Yeah, I struggle with a lot of the same things too. And looking forward versus looking backwards is always an issue. But the biggest thing is, and you kind of mentioned it, sometimes it takes 6 months before they tell me some major things. And it's not that they're hiding them or they're trying to not be completely open. They just don't happen to mention major relevant facts until 6 months later. And that usually is when we get to the real traction. And I don't know why that is. Maybe I have to ask better questions. I don't know if that ever happens to you.
It definitely does. And, I think questions is part of it, but at the same time, there's no way we could possibly ask every perfect question all the time, But you're right. There's often very important information that's known by one person, but it's not on top of their mind, or it's not on top of my mind, or whatever the case may be. It just stays there until it has to come out.
Mm-hmm. Do you find most of them make buying decisions, and when I'm talking about buying decisions, I mean, every industry, they all have their own, I'll call them fetishes, right? I need a new tractor or certain kinds of equipment or whatever it is. Do they usually tell you in advance, or do you find out after the fact that, hey, I found this thing and I ended up buying it because we needed it for something?
It's a mix. I wish they all did beforehand. There's definitely some, the ones that are more visionary that will just go do it if it's something they really want, right? Like, my tax guy called me and, he said I could go buy a truck for taxes. And so I just went and bought a truck, it's a $120,000 truck. I'm like, all right. I feel like, right now, specifically like in the last few weeks, I feel like I don't know if my clients are getting better at it or if I'm getting better at bringing those things up and discussing them. Over time, I think you see the value of running some numbers before you go make big purchases, right? I got a call a few days ago. We want to hire this new marketing company. They want to charge us $7,500 a month. What do you think? I was like, thank you. Thank you for like bringing this up before you go pull the trigger, because the forecast, what our cash flow forecast is telling us is that you don't have 6 months of operating cash, right? Like, and if it takes that long for this new marketing spend to actually have any impact on you, then this may not be a good time to make that investment, right? Like, you start paying $7,500 a month in marketing, it does not bring you business the next day. It takes time. And so, that was a really good scenario that just happened of bringing things up before actually making the decision. And the answer, unfortunately, is no, they don't always bring it up. I wish they did, but it's another one of those things of you've got to be able to see that value of it long term.
The whole tax conversation and spending money is a pet peeve. I'm an enrolled agent, so I know how to do the tax side, but I don't do it. But now my wife does all the tax side, so we can have these conversations. But, you go back to that $120,000 truck. If you've got a 10% margin, you need $1.2 million just to break in on the truck. And so you pretty much just spent a whole lot of profit to buy a truck. And then you know what happens 6 months later? They're like, I was trying to buy a house, but I can't get approved on the mortgage because we're not profitable. Well, no kidding, because you bought a truck that you didn't need, and now you're going to have to live in it because you're not getting a mortgage because you didn't look at it holistically to say, is that the right choice? And the same thing with the marketing. My question is, okay, if we're going to spend $7,500 a month, $90,000 a year, how much extra revenue is that going to bring in? Is it going to bring in a higher margin that we have gross profit to pay for the marketing company? And do we really have a marketing problem? Like, is that, all they hear is more sales. We'll double your sales, but they don't hear the rest of the story to say, is that the right choice to make? And for me, that's the second pet peeve, bad tax advice, bad marketing advice. That both of those really suck up a lot of money. And so how do you do it correctly?
Yeah. I mean, I've seen probably millions at this point be spent on marketing that just gets pissed in the wind. You find a new company and their website looks really cool and they've made some really cool videos, and they come to you and say, hey, we're going to make you look like this and everyone's going to flock to you. And then it doesn't happen, and you just wasted $60,000 like that, And it's kind of sad, but there's nothing you can do about it after the fact. Like, it's not one of the, it's not
after the fact. No,
that has any value afterwards, right? Like, the truck you could at least sell and maybe get something for, unless you're upside down on it, which you probably are.
There is that. No, I agree with you on both of those things. And that's why when we do the math up front, they start to see, oh, that isn't the best decision. Maybe we should do something else. Or if we remind them, hey, you wanted XYZ, is this taking you closer or not? More often than not, these things are shiny objects. They're not taking you closer to where you want to be. They're pulling you further away. So how about we just not do it today?
Yeah. Yeah.
If people would like to learn more about you and your firm, how do they find you?
My website, ravencfo.com. You can also find me on LinkedIn, just Dustin Young on LinkedIn.
Cool. We'll put that in the show notes. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Absolutely. Appreciate it, Rocky.
If you're a business owner and you feel like you're working harder than ever this year, but the business still owns your calendar, your time, here's the message. Profit isn't just about doing more work or more revenue. It's about understanding your numbers, knowing your contract terms, and forecasting cash so you can make decisions before you're in the bind. You take one thing from today, make it this. Stop waiting until the bank account becomes the report card. It's one of the reasons Profit First is so awesome. It gives you that early warning. You got to track the basics, your cash, your sales, your gross profit, your net profit, your lead flow. All of those things are what we do for our clients. It's what Dustin does for the contracting industry. You found this helpful and you know another business owner who's struggling with this, be the hero to them, share the episode so they can get some insights and do better as well. If you need help, Dustin's available. I'm available. Stop waiting. Let's just make 2026 the most profitable year ever. Tired of scaling and growing beyond your cash? Ready to end the cash flow roller coaster and build real wealth inside and outside your business? We should talk. I serve 7 and 8 figure mission-driven business owners increase their profit and cash flow while working less. We help you build the businesses that run without you, so you work less and make more. Book your discovery call today. There's a link in the show notes. You'll work directly with me as your Chief Profitability Officer. If you're a 6-figure business owner, check out the Profit Blueprint program at profitcomesfirst.com. It's your guided path to mastering your numbers with my assistance at an affordable investment for your revenue. Check out my other podcast, Richer Soul. It covers leading yourself and building the ultimate life and business. There's also a link in the show notes. Thanks for listening to the podcast, where revenue is vanity, profit is sanity, and cash is king. Have a profitable week.